Terwijl ik in Tokio was er in Amsterdam een event genaamd Picnic. Tijdens Picnic komen de meest innovatieve denkers als het gaat om nieuwe mediatechnologie bij elkaar. En iemand die er ook rondliep was Peter Molyneux, bekend van zijn ambitieuze gameprojecten. En Rogier was er om te vragen of Peter iets los wilde laten over zijn visie.
Okay, at this moment, which are the games that most attract your attention?
For me, well, there's two ways I could answer that. I could answer that as a creative person, as a designer, or I could answer that as a player. Which one do you want?
Actually, I want both.
You kind of both. That's just greedy.
Okay, we do the first one.
Yeah, okay. So, as a creative person, I think there's some really interesting things happening on mobile, especially with the iPhone. I think the idea of snatching little tiny slices of people's time and entertaining them in those little tiny slices is very new and very different. I think some interesting things happening on places like Facebook with some social gaming coming together. It's still very early days. I think that's really interesting. I think there's some really amazingly fantastic things happening about the way people interact with games, whether that be with the Wii or whether especially with Natal from Microsoft. I think that means that we all as creative people have to think in very, very, very different ways.
Een andere ontwikkeling is cloud gaming. Dat wil zeggen dat je een game niet meer vanaf je eigen console speelt, maar vanaf een server. Naarmate internetverbindingen steeds sneller worden, is het niet onmogelijk om te denken dat de console uiteindelijk verdwijnt.
Fable 2 is going to be released as episodical content.
Yes.
Do you believe that one day we don't have consoles anymore and everything will be like cloud gaming? It would be interesting to develop for.
Yeah, I mean, I think you certainly can see that now we have got consoles connected, and they are connected to the cloud. What does that really mean? And I think that does mean a change in the way that we deliver stuff to players and their ability to add stuff to their world. Is that now that it's more digitally led, us designers can start thinking about really giving you more and more stuff much more regularly, because you don't have to manufacture a disc anymore. And so it does mean a big difference. Yeah.
On mobile games, at the moment, mobile gaming is a really interesting market with the combination of GPS and a camera. You talked about worlds. Wouldn't that be an interesting market for you to create games for? Because
absolutely.
And are you doing that?
I can't comment on that. You're right. Yeah.
Would you combine it with normal games? Or
I find the whole of the mobile, the whole of the cloud technology, I find it absolutely inspirational. I love the idea that people are not sitting in their, lounges or bedrooms, that they're out and they're about, and that I can use everything about the mobile technology. I find that absolutely fascinating. And again, I think for me as a creator, it enables me to think of entertaining people in completely new and fresh and different ways. I mean, and for me, it is, the biggest inspiration I've got about this is the ability to sort of carry things with you and to grab, you as a user, be able to grab things from this world and put them into your world. And I'm giving you too much, I think.
Well, yeah. You always talk a lot about emotion. You have a strong preference for decision making, use of power. Aren't you afraid that you drift away too much from gameplay by focusing too much on human behavior?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, I think, and I often say this, we can't use things like moral choices as an excuse for making a poor gameplay. It's always got to be additive.
But it's very ambitious to actually copy the human.
Man, what are we doing this stuff for? I mean, we're just sitting here making one game after another, and have we just, in Fable's case especially, are we just, okay, we know what the red button does now, we'll just do it again the next version. That's not what we do this for, man. We don't do it for that. We've got to push ourselves. But that defines what computer games are. They've always changed, and that means that we have to move forward. And just because you add moral consequences into a game doesn't mean that the game should get any less. It just should be more.
But it's interesting because in Fable 3 you will be a king or a ruler.
Yeah.
Is it like you're just shooting from your chair and giving other people orders? You should think the gameplay will be totally
absolutely
different.
not. It's that one half of Fable is the journey to what we call the journey to rule, and that's very, very much like, you know, Fable, in a way, Fable 2 and other games, is that, you know, you'll see these terrible things happening in the world and you lead this revolution, you then finally overthrow this evil tyrant, and then we give you something new to play with. And this new thing that you play with is called judgments. And so you've got everything then that you had in the first part of the game, plus you've got these judgments. And you as a ruler are free at any time to be able to go into the world and say, no, I'm going to see what this is myself. So all of this is additive to what is previously.
Okay.
And it means, just remember, and we're also, I've only just talked about the rule because I'm only allowed to talk about the rule. I haven't even told you what we're doing on the gameplay side, which is, you know, my trick in the press is talk about, leave the most exciting thing for later. So I just, you know, there's plenty of gameplay stuff coming to be talked about.
We'll have to wait for that. Yeah.
Big pin. A smiley face. There we go. What do you think?
If you look at controllers, we've seen the demo on Natal. Fable 3 would be an ideal game to feature Natal technology. Not implementing it would give the idea that it's far from ready.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Fable 3 is coming out next year. It's not going to use Natal. And
I never said that.
Oh, I've read it. But okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But that's still not sure, or no comment?
I am going to say it's going to use a controller, but I never said it's not going to use Natal.
Well, that's a nice.
And obviously what would probably happen if I started talking about this is you would see a little red dot appear moving on my forehead, and then as I would start to speak the words, then there will be a shotgun fire and I would be assassinated. Quite clearly, you know, it's that sensitive. But let me get this absolutely straight. I have not said that we're not going to have Natal in Fable 3. All I've really said is that it is going to, you know, it is a controller experience. That doesn't mean there isn't going to be Natal.
Well,
do you really think, knowing me, as though maybe you do it over the years, that I wouldn't want to use something like Natal? I mean, that's just mad, man.
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.